Hello, welcome to the August community meeting of Kubernetes. Nice that you made it all. Please remember that this is live streamed and it will be posted publicly on YouTube. So just please be mindful what you say. It's being recorded. And also remember, we have a code of conduct, so please be excellent to each other. I'm Jenny. I'm from Berlin. I'm head of engineering for a while now. And I'm part of the contributor experience, SIG. And I'm really into coaching, leadership, organizing, and this kind of stuff. And I just joined recently, and I'm really glad to see how you're all collaborating and working with each other. And please mute when you're not speaking. And we would need a note taker for today. Could I have a volunteer? Thank you. Perfect. Then today we have, as always, release updates. And the 6 today are scalability, auto-scaling, and scheduling. And for the first time, we will also have the naming working group presenting. So yeah, I think let's just start right with Jeremy for the release updates.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Rickard. I am currently one of the shadows for the 119 release team. I'm serving as a release team lead shadow, and I will be the release team lead for 120. So we thought I could start picking up the updates today. And we don't have a lot to report. This week and last week, we've been on break for KubeCon. Things are still happening behind the scenes, but we haven't been meeting, so there haven't been a lot of updates going forward. We're still working towards the targeted release date of August 25th. It's aspirational. Anything could happen between now and then, and obviously we'll communicate that out should it become necessary, but still working towards that aspirational date. One thing to mention, Taylor had sent out an update. We are currently holding code thaw off until after 119 has been released. There've been a lot of things happening in this release cycle. It's not been like a super traditional one. It's been a little longer. Deadlines have been pushed out a little bit. Lots of things happening in the world. So thank you everybody for bearing with us as we try to navigate this crazy, uncertain time. But one of the reasons that we've kind of held off code thaw is CI was kind of in a bad state for a little bit. There have been some massive improvements. Master blocking has been mostly green for the last couple of days. There's still some flakes going on, but I wanted to give a shout out to Dan and Rob from the release team working on 119. They are from the CI Signal sub-team, doing awesome things to help get some of those tests fixed in conjunction with SIG testing, specifically Ben and Aaron. It's just been amazing to see the colors change from lots of red to yellow to pretty green. Rob the other day said we're swimming in a sea of green now, and it's pretty awesome to see. Another update, since we are getting pretty close to the end of the 119 release cycle, we are going to start kicking up the 120 release cycle. We've opened a PR to start assembling the team, and you can follow along with that. I'll add it to the agenda after this. We opened it yesterday, so kind of late breaking. And then stay tuned for the shadow application for the 120 release. Any questions?
Just an additional note regarding communication. We realized that a lot of, Josh Burkus brought this up in one of the SIG release meetings. We realized that a lot of the communications that we were giving to the community were at this meeting. So, we're taking that as feedback and going to provide more, maybe biweekly or something, SIG release updates kind of across all of our sub-projects to the community. So stay tuned for that. If you have any feedback, please make sure that you drop by either our retrospective doc or the retrospective itself.
Yeah, that was going to be the last thing I mentioned. With the release happening hopefully on the 25th, the last milestone for 119 will be the retro, and that will be on Thursday, August 27th.
Nice. So any other questions?
Yeah, are we still planning to try to make 1.20 a stability release specifically?
No. We are aiming for stability all the time. This is kind of the impetus for having this extended code freeze cycle. We'll given that the next cycles will not be as long as 119, we won't see something as long for code freeze, but we want to make sure that stability is always a part of the release and not just relegated to a specific release. So I don't plan for 120 to be a quote unquote stability release.
Okay, if that is all, we would go to the scalability update from Matt.
All right, welcome everyone. Just present the slides, or will anyone else present?
No, I think it's better when you present.
Okay, I'm not able to. I get a message that host disabled. Okay. All right, can you see the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Let me just hit the present button, that will be better. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Matt. I'm SIG chair of scalability. A short update on what we did last cycle. In the area of scalability tests and performance, scalability and performance tests, there have been a bunch of things. I think the major one is the continuous scale tests at Golang tip. So basically starting from Golang 115, we have this large scale Kubernetes test running at a few thousand node scale against Golang tip. The motivation for that was since Golang 112, and then in 113, 114, we had a major Golang regression every cycle, and basically we spent a few weeks debugging it. It was very hard to pinpoint where the regression started happening, what caused it. So with this continuous test, that shouldn't be the case anymore, because we will be able to detect regression like almost immediately after it was committed to the Golang code base. Other than that, a few minor things like enabling more large-scale network tests for load balancer and internal load balancer. Also things like enabling containerd in all our scalability tests. When it comes to regressions, it has been actually a really good cycle. We didn't have anything major inside Kubernetes. Like comparing to old cycles, we used to have a few regressions every cycle. So that's actually really good news. The only two I have listed here, one is Golang regression, so it's not in Kubernetes code base. I already mentioned it, Golang 114. And the other one is kind of an ongoing thing. We realized that if cluster is highly loaded with enough pods or secrets, it may cause to not survive a restart of a master. And this is something we are working on. There is like we have some mitigations, but there is like no full solution yet. When it comes to performance improvements, there has been a bunch. Immutable secrets is one. So basically a new API for secrets and config map, which is much more scalable than the regular one. Things like periodic watch bookmarks. So basically we built on the watch bookmark API that was added a few cycles ago and improved that. Dynamic watch cache size. So we eliminated all this problem with static watch cache size. One was like reliability issues. It was actually very easy to forget to bump watch cache size. For example, we had this regression where we forgot to do that for endpoint slices, and that resulted in scalability regression. So now it's not the case anymore. Also, we've had some memory saving with that change, and some others like node authorizer improvements or watch cache indexes, to name a few. And when it comes to plans for upcoming cycles, so as always, we would like to work on hardening and extending the definition of scalability. So there's always work to do in this area. We would like to add more SLIs and SLOs, and also improve the existing ones. Scalability limits is also something that we haven't updated for a long time, so it's definitely something we should do in the next few cycles. When it comes to scalability and performance tests, big team is working on deflaking our tests. We are aware that our tests are flaky. We already started like doing something with that, but we hope to do even more in the next few weeks. Other than that, we would like to invest in better release pipeline for our performance test tools. So, for example, Postfilter 2, because what we have right now is not the best thing. It's actually really painful when it comes to backporting the changes to all the releases. And other things are extending and improving our tests. So, for example, adding upgrade tests or speeding our tests up or like covering more Kubernetes concepts. And last but not least, so the bottleneck detection and performance improvements. The plans in this area are things like efficient watch resumption. That's the cat that Wojtek opened a few weeks ago. Basically, it's like it's part of the solutions for not working upgrades in large clusters. And also there are other efforts that we are not driving directly, but we are very interested in them. Example is priority and fairness. So basically, it will be a big game changer for scalability in Kubernetes. We would like to experiment with that more because it will basically open a new possibilities for us when it comes to configuring kubelet and like other parts of the system. And also things like consistent reads from cache. We would like to dig more into ideas like that and see whether we should invest more time in things like that. All right, and as always, if you would like to contribute, we have these two help wanted lists in Perf-test and Kubernetes repositories. You can ping us a Slack for anything, and a short slide on where to find us, so links to our homepage, Slack channel, mailing list. And we have public meetings. Actually, one is starting in 18 minutes. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt? Okay, that sounds like a no. Cool, thank you, Matt. The next one on the list is Marcin, and he will give us an update for autoscaling.
Give me a second.
Sure.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Martin Wielgus. I'm one of the leads of SIG Autoscaling. Just a small reminder what SIG Autoscaling is all about. We have three main products that we are taking care of: cluster autoscaler, horizontal, and vertical pod autoscaler. During last cycle and a bit in cluster autoscaler, we got two new cloud providers support. One is Huawei Cloud, and the second one is long-awaited cluster API cloud provider support. We also migrated to scheduler framework. Thanks to that, we are still keeping in sync with the scheduler, and this migration allowed us to fix long-standing issues like anti-affinity problems and hopefully in the near future problems with local storage. We also improved scalability of cluster autoscaling in a couple of the areas. In vertical pod autoscaler, we added API to specify which resources are controlled by VPA. Is it CPU, memory, or both? We added controls for pod updating frequency. VPA is more aware of its surrounding. If VPA admission webhook pod is not running, the pods will not be updated. We added support for out-of-memory errors in pods that have multiple containers. Previously, this was a bit of a problem. And we are also now supporting sidecars that are injected during the admission phase. In horizontal pod autoscaler, the main topic is work on adding container level metrics. Currently, we have only pod level metrics. In the upcoming cycles, we obviously plan to have more cloud providers in cluster autoscaler. Cluster API support is very a current topic, and a lot of people are working on it. We are seeing great progress, so hopefully this support will be really great soon. And we are also working on scalability improvements. In vertical pod autoscaler, we want to add more controls over pod size recommendations. We want to have more flexible pod request limit, update policies, and allow per namespace restriction. In horizontal pod autoscaler, apart from completing this container level metrics, we want to graduate API, which is currently in V2 beta 2 to GA. How can you contribute? We have quite a few issues. They are scattered across 2 repositories. The main one is our autoscaler repository. However, for HPA, issues are in the main Kubernetes repository. And we are also explicitly looking for some support with V2 beta 2 HPA IP graduation. If you want to learn more, you can talk directly to me or to other Siglit, Guy Templeton. We have a Slack channel and we meet weekly on Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time or 4 p.m. Standard European time at Zoom. That's all for me. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Marcin. The
Thank
next on
you.
the list is SIG scheduling, and Vi will present. Pretty sure I didn't pronounce that correct.
Yeah, my name is Wei. So.
Wei. Okay, great.
No problem. No. So can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Wei Huang, and I work for IBM. Right now, I co-chair the SIG scheduling. So today, I'm going to walk you through the major update in the last several releases. So first thing first. So scheduling framework. So we've been actively working on scheduling for framework since 1.15. In 1.18, we have reached milestone 2 to ensure that predicates and priority functions are running as native plugins. And that also implies the legacy hard-coded execution paths has totally been eliminated. Everything is now plugin-based. So the code base is more neat. And in 1.19 release, we worked that one step further to refactor the hard-coded preemption logic into the plugins. That is completed by introducing a new extension point called Postfilter. So now external users can choose to implement their own preemption strategies, like preempting a group of paths, no matter the path is from one single node or not. So right now in default preemption logic, we just preempt the path on a single node. So it has more flexibility, accessibility. All right. So right now the scheduler framework can be looked at has 2 parts. And one is scheduler framework, as well as the core interface definitions, and also the supporting code logic, which is we call it the scheduler framework runtime. And the other parts is all the implementations, all the individual plugins. So basically the 2 parts. However, the default entry plugins cannot always satisfy users' requirement. So we initiated a subrepo called schedule plugins, which we want to accommodate different kinds of requirements. And so the different vendors can contribute their plugin design, implementation, proposal ideas there, so to resolve the particular kinds of requirements. So basically, we call those plugins as out-of-tree plugins. So, but they are also the first class of citizen in the scheduler world. So it's basically pretty like the core Kubernetes API resources versus the CRDs. So basically the same concept. Okay, due to the changes made in the scheduling framework, the corresponding configurations has to be changed as well. So we upgraded the scheduler component config from Viva Alpha 1, which has been actually stay for a while for releases, and until we introduce the framework, that config has been refactored a lot. So in 1.18, the version goes to Viva Alpha 2, and in 1.19, the version bumped to Viva Beta 1. So don't be surprised by some significant configuration changes in the past releases. And also, with the change, we also enhanced some user experience on configuring scheduler. For example, in the before, it's very difficult to say customize some scheduling policies. For example, you have to know the full list of the predicates and priorities so that you can do some tailoring, like replace one with each other. So that's not good user experience. But right now with the new component config, it's much more easier to do that. And also some parameters has to be deleted because they are not necessary anymore. And also some fields has been moved from one layer to another hierarchy. So that is all, I think, good news. So make users more easy to use the scheduling framework. And also one feature I want to highlight here is the schedule profile. So right now, the scheduler supports multiple profiles configurations. So what does that mean? So that is, the background is that users are very likely to run various kinds of workloads in one Kubernetes cluster. For example, running both the long-running services as well as the batch workloads. So in the before, how can they do that? They have to run multiple scheduler binaries, and each binary runs for one particular workload. That can resolve the problem, but that also introduces a new problem, which is the resource can conflict in some cases because there are multiple scheduler binaries. The binaries can compete with each other, so they may decide to schedule their pod to the same node to competing for the limited resources. So actually that problem is not easy to fix until we introduce the multiple profile scheduler. So right now you can still have one schedule binary, so there's no resource confliction. And inside the schedule binary, you can define multiple profiles. One profile is a combination of different plugins. So you package a set of plugins into one profile, and then the other set of plugins into another profile. So, but they running into the same binaries. And in runtime, if your pod, let's say you want the pod to be more bin packed, you can correspond that pod spec the scheduler name correspond to this kind of profile name, etc., etc. So this gives you more flexibility and to support multiple kinds of workloads. So that is one feature I want to highlight. And as always, we are continuing to improve the performance, and because of the a big refactoring of code base, and that gets much easier, and the code base is much clean right now. We have also improved the performance of the pod affinity because that is was recognized as a slow feature, but right now it's much more faster. And also we look into the code to try to skip unnecessary scheduling attempts, and also reduce the number of calling to API server. In some logic, we try to use the cache object as much as possible. And also we improve the observability to introduce or refine the existing metrics. And also some QS metrics are being designed so that we can provide maybe SLA to some extent in the future. In terms of feature graduations, we will graduate part topology spread to GA in 1.19 release, and also we GA 10-best eviction in 1.18 release. And in the ongoing KubeCon, there is a scheduling intro deep dive, so check it out if you are interested. So what about next releases? So we will still focus on the scheduling framework to evolve it, to make it more easy to use and fit more business needs. So next, the focus will shift from implementation of the in-tray plugins to refine some more internal logic. And some of logic maybe is not that easy to fix. Maybe need some refactoring, like give the users more fine-grained control on choosing whether to in-queue and how to in-queue their paths on some particular cases. And also, I think there's one last piece left in our code base is the assume path logic, which hasn't been migrated to the plugin mechanism yet. So we will do that later. And also we want to promote the scheduling plugins as a kind of plugin marketplace to engage more companies to contribute. So right now we have several companies actively contribute to that on some common requirements like Gantt scheduling, like elastic quarter, etc. So, but we want to engage more companies. And in terms of scheduling config, we will definitely graduate that so that we can deprecate the legacy policy API. And also because more and more external users are using scheduling framework, so we should sort of refactor our code base to make it less dependent on Kubernetes, maybe move some logic to staging repo so that it can be easily be used by the external users. And also we also worked with scalability to improve our benchmark testing as well as our internal benchmark testing framework. Okay, and in terms of performance, another focus of shift is from the regular pass to the preemption pass. So that is one area we didn't look quite into. So that is one focus of the next couple of releases. Okay, and then Wei Huang, which is me, has been nominated as a new co-chair. Klaus Ma has stepped down. So thanks for him for the efforts in the past couple of years. And here's the China's list and the each list that you can find out, and feel free to contact us in Slack. All right, that's pretty much for today.
Great. Are there any questions?
Hey, wait, just a quick question. This is Gautam. I just want to know how the Prescore actually differs from Postfilter.
What differs with Postfilter?
Prescore.
Oh, Prescore. So you may have known that there's a general phase called the filter and then another called score. So filter is kind of try to ensure that the hard requirements of your path has been satisfied. So that is yes or no question, right? And the score tries to resolve the softer requirements. So that is best to have, good have to resolve, but good have problem. So post filter happens after filter, which can only happen when there's no single node can satisfy your hard requirements. So what can we do? So a usual solution is to try preemption. So that is one implementation in post filter, right? But you can, so with the new post filter exchange point, but it doesn't limit it, the implementation to be preemption. You can try to use other solutions, like you can spin up a new machine, like use CA to provision a new machine to make this part schedulable, right? And also you can say, you can use HPA to reduce the request of the pod to make it schedulable. So that is, I mean, that necessarily can be achieved by the preemption of the pod, can be other mechanisms. So that is the post filter. And the pre-score happens in the score phase. So it basically try to build a pre-cache for the score plugin to use. That is basically like, for example, for some functionalities, you have to consider the requirements across nodes, not on a single node. For example, pod affinity, pod anti-affinity, pod topology spread. Right. With this advanced scheduling features, you are not looking at a single pod. Then you can decide whether it's a fit or not. You have to look across the node. So with that said, you have to sort of, to make it efficient, you have to build a pre-cache in the pre-score phase so that the pre-cache can be used in the score phase. So that is the difference with pre-score and the post-filter. So
right,
yes,
right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? Good. Thanks, Ray, for the update. The next one is Celeste, and she will give us an update about the naming work group.
Hello, everyone. In case you didn't know me, I'm Celeste. I'm a senior technical writer with the CNCF, and I'm one of the leads of the naming working group. We had our first meeting this last quarter, and this is really just an update on that because I know a lot of people in the community are quite interested. So what we did last quarter was really kick off the project in full. At this moment, so to give you a bit of background, what the naming working group is trying to do is to find the best possible names and nomenclature and language to use in our projects to refer to different components, both in the code base and in our documentation. At the moment, we have a strong focus on language in the Kubernetes project that has racist or offensive connotations. Those are things we are trying to eliminate, but we anticipate that the working group will shift in the future to make recommendations just around unclear language in the project and how we can improve that. So that's one of the goals. The other goal, and I think I'm covering this, so we're gonna move it aside, is to utilize our existing tooling and potentially develop a bit of new tooling to help projects implement naming changes in the most efficient way possible and monitor their code bases in that way. So that's what we're doing. Come on. So what are we doing in upcoming cycles? So the naming, the working group naming mailing list is kind of where all the action is happening because we only meet monthly. And at the moment, we have discussions around a few terms which are listed here, and we're hoping to resolve those and get to a place where we can start making recommendations. As a working group, we do not own code. We can only make recommendations for plans of action, and in this case, for specific terms that we think need to change in the project. It's very likely that those recommendations are going to end up as a set of like architectural decision records of some sort. But one of my to-dos for today is to put out a proposal as to what that looks like to the group. So that's the main thing that's happening is there's a lot of discussion on the mailing list. And as I mentioned before, start to think about how to develop process and tooling and how to make what we're doing with the working group sustainable long-term for the project without having to spin up a working group. That's effectively the second goal. How these plans affect you like in the near kind of 6-month future, probably not much. And this kind of goes back to 120 potentially being a quote unquote stability release. I wouldn't expect any major change in any of your lives right away. But eventually there will be change and there will be work done towards these goals. Again, as a working group, we don't own code. We make recommendation, and I believe steering committee is the one who ratifies those recommendations. So it needs to go through that process first. In the future, though, we will be looking for projects and sub-projects in the Kubernetes organization that are looking to get the jump on this, to help us iron out the process and what actually needs to happen. For example, if we need to change the word master and that has API changes that could be breaking for customers. With any luck, the bulk recommendations and language evaluation work will be done in the next few months. I skipped over the how you can help slide because how you can help is really where to find us because we are still in the active discussion phase. So these are the chairs. The homepage is in K Community, and I apologize for not changing that. The real bulk of where you can find us and how you can help is please come to the Slack channel, raise any issues you see in your day-to-day work, which you think should be flagged for the naming working group, and raise them in Slack, and join us on the mailing list to help out with the discussion. And thank you all very much for your time.
Are there any questions?
So one additional note is that, given speaking of the existing mechanisms that we have today, we know that we can search issues in PRs using labels and stuff like that. We do have a working group naming label for PR. So we have a project board that we're aggregating PRs that are issues or PRs that are listed as working group naming. So if you want to get our attention, that's one way to do it. We'll do frequent triage of that board. Also, we have GitHub teams. If you want to reach out to, if you're interested in joining as a quote unquote member of working group naming, you can add yourself to the working group naming GitHub team. There's also a working group naming leads GitHub team that is specifically for the leads chairs if you want to reach out to us that way. So yeah, keep using the usual communication mechanisms, GitHub, Slack, mailing list. I think the mailing list is primarily, we're trying to take SIG architecture's lead, where because we have monthly meetings, we want to make sure that the discussion that happens during the meeting is essentially like closing the books on a discussion that happened on the mailing list, right? So if you have something to propose that you want to eventually discuss in a meeting, please propose it on the mailing list first, and that will help it get on the agenda for the next meeting.
Great, so any other questions? Okay, thanks, Celeste. Next point, we have a couple of announcements. So the KubeCon and the Cloud Native Con is wrapping up. Thanks everyone for participating. Also, if you want to host this meeting, ping Castorio in Slack if you like to volunteer. There's the free slot for September, and then the next one for November, I guess, and then we still have free spots. And it's really easy to do. Documentation is great. So be brave and just volunteer for that. Please also follow us on Twitter, Kubernetes contributors. And as always, we also added to the agenda the shout outs of the month. So you can read that in there. Or if you see that somebody is doing something above and beyond, you can mention them in the shout outs channel in Slack. And then we basically will always add them to the document. Maybe, are there any other announcement that somebody would like to add?
Just an additional +1 to all the positive work that has been happening across the CI signal and CI improvements with SIG release and SIG testing. A lot of people have stepped up to do that work, and we've seen really positive improvement in the pre-submits and overall release blocking and informing tests. So thank you again to everyone who's been working on that.
Cool, great. Then if there's nothing else, I will give you 20 minutes to update the agenda, and then I will send it out. Thanks to all the presenters and the people who asked questions and responded to that. And thanks everybody for watching. Wish you a great day.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.